Broke up with my boyfriend before moving in. Sobbed in my car, his mom chased me down the street. I ended things with my girlfriend just as we were gearing up to share a place. Picture this, I'm sitting in my truck, tears streaming down my face after checking out apartments, and her mom's running after me down the road as I peel out. Me, I'm a 23-year-old guy, and she's a 22-year-old gal. We've been a couple for 8 solid years, ever since we crossed paths back in high school. We've stuck together through thick and thin, growing up side by side in a way that feels almost like a miracle. Honestly, our relationship's been a good one, great, even. We talk about everything, shower each other with affection, crack jokes that go back years, and settle into this easy comfort as a pair. By all accounts, it's been a solid run, but if everything was perfect, I wouldn't be spilling my guts here, right? As we started stepping into the real adult world, I began tossing out some heavy questions, stuff I needed answers to. Thing is, I wasn't getting much back. Take kids, for example. I've always wanted a family someday, but she's never been on board with that. People told me to hold off, wait till we were older for her real take on it, since I first brought it up 4 years into us dating. I'd ask her what she saw for herself down the line, job-wise, life-wise, who she was becoming. But every time I tried digging into that stuff, she'd go quiet. Her answers got short, clipped, like I don't know, over and over. I'd push a little, and maybe after some time she'd give me a half answer, but that's been our pattern. I'm out here asking the big stuff, fishing for something real, and she'd just say she needed to think it over. Next day, though, we'd be right back to normal, happy as clams, cuddling up with some TV, hitting the ice skating rink, or grabbing a nice dinner, telling each other how much we meant to one another. But those unanswered questions? They started gnawing at me. Why wouldn't she dive into them? Why didn't she ever turn it around and ask me the same? Does it even matter that she didn't? We're still young, I'm 23, she's 22, but 8 years together is a long haul. It was eating me up inside, like I'd been hanging on for answers to stuff I asked way back when. And with us talking about tying the knot, I felt this pressure building to get it all straight. When I'd shove those worries down and forget about them, life was smooth sailing. We'd dream out loud about where we'd settle down, what pets we'd get and what we'd call them, what shows we'd binge every week. I told myself if I just stayed patient, kept being the supportive guy who loves her to death, things would work out. We've made it this far together, proof we could keep growing as a team. Why wouldn't that keep going? Except it didn't. It just didn't, folks. Last weekend, something broke loose. We were out hunting for a place to live, had 3 spots lined up to see. I'm wandering through this apartment, checking out the kitchen, picturing our bedroom, and after we hug and kiss goodbye, bam, it hits me. I drive home, park my truck, and lose it. I'm bawling my eyes out. I call my mom, she swings by, and I'm a wreck. Something inside me just gave out, died right there. I don't even know what's happening, but I'm thinking I've got to call it quits with her. I can't ask her to flip who she is for me, that's not right. I've been patient, sure, but her answers, or lack of them, have been there all along. The silence, the dodging, the I don't knows, I've been kidding myself thinking we could push through anything. Looking for a place together made it all clear as day, I'm not ready to set up a home with her. Earlier this year, she threw me a curveball and said she was okay with having kids someday. Man, that hit me like a ton of bricks, in a good way. A wave of relief washed over me, and I think I let it carry me into this stretch where I ignored everything else. She'd finally tackled my biggest question, so I was riding high, feeling good. But then reality started creeping in, and I couldn't shake it. Did she really mean it? Or was she just saying that to keep me from asking again? She's told me plenty of times I'm the best thing that's ever happened to her, that she loves me deep, that I push her to be better. She even said she's glad she's with me cause after 8 years, she wouldn't know how to start over with somebody else. I get that, and it's sweet, but I've got wishes piling up. I wish she had some fire in her, some drive, a real target she's aiming for. I wish she'd think about what's ahead, get pumped up about life, stay positive about it. I wish she didn't carry so much anger at folks or herself. I wish she'd tackle her problems head on, not shy away, and open up to me more. Here's the kicker, I wish I knew how to walk away without tearing her apart, 'cause I'm pretty sure it will. Her family's gonna flip on her, I can see it coming. We've been tossing around marriage talk, scoping out places to live, and then I just blew it all up inside. My gut's screaming at me to do this, and it's never steered me wrong before, but how in the world do I pull it off? After I spilled all this out and chewed it over with some close folks, family, friends, I figured I couldn't keep waking up every day with this ache in my chest. Friday rolled around, a day sooner than I'd planned, but I was done dragging it out. She'd been texting me like normal all week, so I knew she had no clue what was coming. That made it tougher. I kept my replies short, not wanting to lie or string her along, and asked if she'd meet me that morning. She said she'd love to, all chipper. I ran some errands with my brother first. He was my wingman, driving what he called the getaway rig. He promised to scoop me up when it was done. Pulling up to her place was brutal. Her folks were decking the house out for Christmas, and her mom roped me into helping string garland across the porch. My heart was pounding in my throat, but I pitched in till I could slip inside. Found her in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, looking cozy. I asked if we could talk upstairs in her room, and she said, sure, no hesitation. She threw her arms around me, rubbed my back, and I had to fight hard not to break down right there. We climbed the stairs, stepped into her room, and I shut the door behind us. I pulled her into one last big hug, just soaking it in private for a second. Then I took a deep breath and asked her to sit with me. I plopped down cross-legged on the floor and laid it all out. I told her I'd been hurting bad since we'd gone looking at places to live. I said I didn't think we should move in together, not because of her, but because I didn't see us staying a couple. I made it clear it wasn't her fault, that she hadn't done anything wrong. It was me. I felt something off in us, and I knew setting up a home together wasn't right. Deep down, I couldn't see myself locking in with her like that. I admitted it didn't creep up slow, it slammed into me like a freight train. I said I was sorry, real sorry. She just stared at me, shocked, and asked why I was doing this. She thought we were golden, couldn't wrap her head around it. She wanted to know what we'd do next. I told her I owed her a real talk. 8 years is a long stretch, and though I wasn't budging on this, I wanted to hash it out. But she didn't stick around for that. She got up, swapped her pajamas for street clothes, grabbed her bag, and bolted. Her mom called after her for more Christmas help, but she blew past her. I heard her mutter something about seeing me Saturday for a Friendsgiving with our crew, then she was gone. I sat there, stunned, as it all sank in. The calm, thought-out way I wanted to handle this? Out the window. All my smooth reasons turned to mush, and I was left raw, feeling like the lowest guy alive. I yanked on my boots and bolted downstairs. Her mom was hollering for me to help again, but for the first time in years, I tuned her out and ran for the door. Hit the street, and her mom came out after me, yelling my name like I'd forgotten my keys or something. I kept walking. She shouted louder, but I rounded the corner into the neighborhood and dialed my brother. He was there fast, car still rolling as I jumped in, and I was gone. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, hands down. I cried like a baby in that truck, loud and ugly, my brother gripping my hand. 8 years, over just like that. I got home that Friday, still shaking from what I'd just done, and my whole family was there waiting for me. They wrapped me up in their support, sharing their own tales of first loves gone sour to help me feel less alone. That was Friday. Now it's Monday, and I've had some time to sit with it. I've got to say, as rough as it was, I know deep down I made the right call. After all the crying and chaos settled, it hit me, I'd been needing to do this for a while. I feel bigger somehow, fuller, like I've got room to breathe again. I'm even starting to look forward to what's next for me, whatever that might be. I've heard from a bunch of folks since I first laid this out, thanks to everyone who chimed in. I read every word you all sent my way, even the ones who didn't see it like I did. If I tried to answer everybody and dump every little piece of our 8 years together to explain myself, I think I'd miss the point of hearing your straight-up takes. That's what I've got to face moving forward anyway, real opinions, not just my own spin. So, I'm grateful for all of it, for you taking the time to weigh in. Now, let me switch gears and tell you another story that's been on my mind. This one's about my buddy and his girl, Laura. I've been with Laura for a year now, and she's flat out amazing. we're crazy about each other. I've known Jake and Shelly for 2 years, they're part of my wider friend group, not super tight at first, but we got real close over time. They took a shine to Laura, probably hung out with her more than me, even told me once if we ever split, they'd pick her side over mine, despite me knowing them longer. Kind of stung, but I brushed it off. Anyway, here's what went down. Laura just finished college, and she wanted to celebrate. Now, she's not a drinker, barely touches the stuff. In the year we've been together, I can count on one hand the times she's had a drink, and that's only because some of our pals nudged her into it. She's small, no tolerance at all, and it knocks her flat fast. That's key to this mess. So, Jake and Shelly invite her over to their place while I'm stuck at work till 2 in the morning. The plan was simple, they'd pick her up, she'd hang there, and I'd swing by after my shift to get her home safe, no drinking and driving, no crashing overnight. I trusted them, they're no strangers to booze and could keep an eye on her. Everything seemed fine. I'm getting these messy texts from Laura while I'm on the clock, so I figure she's had a few and I'll need to play nursemaid when I get there. No big deal, I think. But when I roll up to their house after work, I walk into a nightmare. Laura's sprawled out on the floor, completely gone. Shelly's on top of her, kissing her, and Jake's standing there filming it all on his phone like it's some kind of show. I lose it, yell at him, "What in the hell are you doing?" I grab his phone, wipe every video and picture off it, and he's laughing, saying it's just a prank, that they were gonna res Laura about it when she woke up. I scoop her up off the ground, she's so trashed she can't even stand, puking her guts out, crying, eyes all over the place. Meanwhile, Jake and Shelly are stone cold sober. What kind of messed up situation is this? I get her out of there, take her home, and tuck her in. She's a wreck, throwing up all night, and I'm just trying to keep her steady. Then Shelly texts me, saying I shouldn't be ticked off, it was all in good fun. I fire back that they took advantage of her, and she doesn't even deny it. She says, yeah, they did, but it was friendly, like they were helping Laura cut loose since she's always got her nose in a book. I'm so disgusted I can't even respond, just focus on taking care of my girl through the night. Come morning, Laura's phone starts blowing up with messages from them. They're mad, tearing into her for getting them in hot water. They tell her she's a grown woman, should own her screw-ups, that they don't care what I think, that I'm overreacting, and it's all her fault she made them film it. If you saw how out of it Laura was, you'd know she couldn't make anybody do a damn thing. She could barely move. She's been a mess all day, flipping between blaming herself and seeing how twisted they were. Me? They're hounding me too, calling me names, saying I'm blowing a harmless joke out of proportion. Now they're spreading stories around, painting me as some jealous control freak and Laura as a sloppy drunk who egged them on. I don't know what to do here. Am I off base? I don't think so, but they're turning it all upside down. I could use some advice, folks. This whole mess with Laura, Jake, and Shelly didn't just end that night. The next few days, they wouldn't let up, kept hitting Laura's phone with texts, laying the blame square on her shoulders. She told them straight up she was so hammered she couldn't remember a thing, and they jumped all over that. They started feeding her made-up tales about what went down, trying to convince her I was the bad guy here, lying to her, acting like some overbearing jerk who just wanted to cut her off from her real friends. Since they've known me a couple years, they dug into my past and slung it at her like mud. They told her I was heavy into drugs back when I was 18. True, I'll own that, but it's ancient history. They brought up that time I got nabbed for driving drunk, another dumb move I fessed up to the second Laura and I got together, she's known from day one. Then they said I've been with a ton of women, that Laura's just another notch on my belt. Look, I'll admit I used to run wild, partied hard, made mistakes, but I'm not that guy anymore. I love Laura with everything I've got, and it cut deep watching them twist my old life to pull her away from me. I told her we should take this to the cops, file a report, get it on record. She agreed. She warned Jake and Shelly to back off, stop harassing her, and they lost it, went full on crazy. They showed up at our place late one night, banging on the door, saying they just wanted to talk to her. They left little gifts and snacks outside, like that'd fix it. They even dragged her folks into it, dropping off handwritten notes signed "Love, your favorite son and daughter." What kind of whacked out move is that? Lucky for us, her parents aren't fools. I filled them in on what those two did to Laura, and they shut it down hard. Banned Jake and Shelley from the house, said they'd call the police if they ever came back. It was a wild few days, let me tell you. Laura was a wreck, crying in my arms night after night, torn up with guilt and confusion. After weeks of this nonsense, we finally hauled ourselves down to the station and filed a report. She wasn't ready to press charges, and I'm not about to push her. She's got to figure that out on her own. I'm just trying to build her back up, help her see her own strength so she can decide later if she wants to take it further. The cops told us she's got a solid case if she changes her mind. Those texts where they flat out admit to taking advantage of her are gold, and if she goes for charges, they could grab their phones and dig for that video. I don't know the ins and outs of how that works, but I trust they do. For now, Laura just wanted a paper trail, something official in case this blows up again down the road. She's even thinking about a restraining order, but lately, they've gone quiet, finally stopped reaching out. We've cut ties with them and anyone else buying their garbage. Laura's in therapy now, working through it slow. She's starting to get that what happened was assault, not some prank gone wrong. I go with her sometimes, just to be there for her. The toughest part for her is shaking this idea that she's to blame. She keeps saying if she hadn't gotten so drunk, none of it would have happened. I tell her every time it's not her fault, not one bit. We'll see if she decides to take it to court someday. I'm not here to force her hand. Whatever she chooses, I've got her back. That's where we're at now. I still can't wrap my head around why they flipped out like that, leaving notes, dropping off gifts, roping her parents in. It's like they went off the deep end after that night, and I don't know what to make of it. Oh, and a couple things folks asked about that night. Laura can't recall how much she drank before she blacked out. She was sick as a dog after, puking for hours. That's got me worried about how they got her that wasted, especially since she said they weren't drinking at all. Sounds off to me. And that text from Shelley? Word for word, she wrote, "We really did take advantage of her, but in a friendly way. She wanted to take more shots and we wanted her to have fun since she's always stuck home studying. It was more of a joke to her sober self." I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Sounds like a load of bull. Some people suggested they might be predators, and I hate to say it, but I'd had that gut feeling before. I always felt shoved aside cause they'd rather hang with Laura, they even told me so. Makes me sick thinking if I hadn't brought her around them, none of this would have happened. I feel rotten for letting her go over there that night. Alright, here's the final chunk of the story you sent, reworked to your specs. First person as a simple American man, no emojis, less than 60% similar to the original, no abbreviations, all details included, paraphrased with the same meaning, prepped for AI voiceover, mistakes corrected, and written out in full. I'm keeping it in the guy's perspective, wrapping up the second story about Laura, Jake, and Shelley. Let's finish this off. So that's the rundown on what happened with Laura and those two clowns, Jake and Shelley. It's been a wild ride, and I'm still sorting through the fallout in my head. After that night, things didn't just simmer down, they got crazier. For days, they kept hammering Laura with calls and texts, piling on the guilt, telling her she brought it all on herself. She laid it out plain for them. She was so out of it she couldn't remember a thing, and they turned that into ammo. They started spinning wild stories about what went down, trying to make her doubt me, saying I was feeding her lies, acting like some control freak who wanted to lock her away from her true buddies. They've known me a while, so they pulled out every skeleton in my closet to throw at her. They told her I was a druggie back at 18, yeah, I messed around then, but that's long gone. They brought up the drunk driving bust. I had a stupid choice, sure, but I owned it with Laura from the jump, no secrets there. Then they claimed I'd been with tons of women, that Laura's just another fling to me. I'll level with you, I used to live fast and loose, but that's not who I am now. I love that girl with all I've got, and it stung bad watching them use my old dirt to turn her against me. I sat her down and said we ought to get the law involved, put this on paper with the police. She nodded, ready to do it. She told Jake and Shelley to quit bothering her, and they went nuts, lost their damn minds. They rolled up to our place in the dead of night, banging on the door, begging to talk. They left little presents and notes outside, like some creepy peace offering. Then they dragged her folks into it, dropping off letters signed "Love, your favorite son and daughter." I mean, who does that? Good thing her parents aren't pushovers. I gave them the full scoop on what those two pulled, and they shut it down fast, told Jake and Shelly they're not welcome, threatened to call the cops if they showed their faces again. It was a circus, pure and simple. Laura took it hard, crying into my chest for nights on end, wrestling with shame and mixed-up thoughts. After weeks of that garbage, we marched down to the police station and got a report filed. She wasn't up for pressing charges, not yet, at least. I'm not gonna push her, she's got to come to that on her own time. My job's to lift her up, help her find her footing again so she can decide later if she wants to take it further. The officers said she's got a strong shot if she does. Those texts where they admit what they did are solid proof, and if she goes for it, they could snatch their phones and hunt for that video. I don't know the legal nitty-gritty, but that's what they told us. For now, Laura just wanted something official logged, a trail to follow if this flares up again. She's tossing around the idea of a restraining order, but they've finally backed off, gone radio silent. We've ditched them and anyone else swallowing their lies. She's seeing a counselor now, taking it slow, piecing together that what they did was assault, not some dumb joke. I tag along sometimes, just to stand by her. The hardest thing for her is shaking this notion she's at fault. She keeps saying if she hadn't gotten so smashed, it wouldn't have happened. I tell her over and over it's not on her, not one lick. We'll see if she wants to take it to court someday. I'm not here to steer her one way or the other. Whatever she picks, I'm in her corner. That's the deal right now. I still can't figure out why they went off the rails like that, leaving notes, dropping gifts, pulling her parents into it. It's like they snapped after that night, and I'm at a loss for why. A couple side notes from what folks have asked. Laura can't pin down how much she drank before she blacked out. She was a mess after, throwing up non-stop. That's got me side-eyeing how they got her that far gone, 'cause she swears they didn't touch a drop themselves. Sounds fishy as hell. And Shelly's text? She wrote, "We really did take advantage of her, but in a friendly way. She wanted to take more shots and we wanted her to have fun since she's always stuck home studying. It was more of a joke to her sober self." I can't even unpack that. It's nonsense. Some people reckon they're predators, and I've got to admit, I'd felt that vibe before but didn't want to believe it. They always edged me out, preferred Laura's company, even said so to my face. I feel like trash for introducing her to them. If I hadn't, she'd never have been in that spot. Letting her go over there that night's on me, and it's a weight I'm carrying.